The Judah ID is a genealogical, historical, and prophetic approach to researching Scripture. The Black Ancestry Network Group and its sister group, Exodus 20, at Facebook.com, are attempting to undo the psychological, historical, and genealogical damage that was caused by the institution of slavery. By correcting the historical record, rightly dividing the word of truth, and letting prophecy become our guiding light. The Book of Daniel provides an account of 3 young Jewish men who were taken captive and deported to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar during his first of 3 attacks on Jerusalem in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, which is 605 BC. Once in Babylon, they were given the Babylonian names of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel tells us in chapter 3 that Nebuchadnezzar had a statue constructed, and all citizens were to fall down and worship it. Those who did not worship the statue would be thrown into a blazing furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship the statue because they worshiped God only. As a consequence, they were thrown into the fiery furnace, but they did not perish, and Nebuchadnezzar could see them walking around and conversing with a 4th figure who looks like a son of the gods. The king shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out of the fire." The king praised the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and had them promoted and made them officials in his kingdom. An archaeological discovery, known as the Nebuchadnezzar II Prism, is referred to in the literature as the Hofkalender. Originally, it had 8 columns, or sides, but only 6 pieces are preserved. These are designated columns I1 to 6. Column 6 has the designation EK 7834 and is in the Istanbul Archaeological Museum. It contains an unusual royal inscription, which refers to the building works to enlarge the old palace at Babylon. But also, it contains long lists of provincial and imperial officials. In 1982, William Shea found Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego names on this list of officials of Nebuchadnezzar. Column 6 is pictured here. Nebuzaradan played a significant role in the events of 587 and 586 BC. He was a high-ranking military official called Commander of the Imperial Guard in the biblical text, perhaps reporting directly to Nebuchadnezzar. He was responsible for supervising the burning of the city. 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 8 through 9 says, "And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem." Also, in Jeremiah chapter 39, verse 8, it states, "And the Chaldeans burned the king's house, and the houses of the people, with fire, and broke down the walls of Jerusalem." And Jeremiah chapter 52, verses 12 and 13, says, "Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men, burned he with fire." Nebuzaradan was also involved in tearing down the defenses of Jerusalem. You can find that in 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 10. "And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard break down the walls of Jerusalem round about." And again in Jeremiah chapter 39, verse 8. "And the Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire, and broke down the walls of Jerusalem." And again in Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 14. "And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about." Nebuzaradan was also involved with deporting 832 captives to Babylon. You can find that in 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 11. "Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away." Jeremiah 39, verse 9. Then Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captives into Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to him, with the rest of the people that remained. Jeremiah chapter 52, verses 15 through 29. Then Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and the residue of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard left certain of the poor of the land for vinedressers and for husbandmen. Also the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brasen sea that was in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans brake, and carried all the brass of them to Babylon. The cauldrons also, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the bowls, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, took they away. And the basins, and the firepans, and the bowls, and the cauldrons, and the candlesticks, and the spoons, and the cups, that which was of gold and gold, and that which was of silver and silver, took the captain of the guard away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and 12 brazen bowls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made in the house of the Lord, the brass of all these vessels was without weight. And concerning the pillars, the height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and a fillet of 12 cubits did compass it, and the thickness thereof was 4 fingers, it was hollow. And a chapiter of brass was upon it, and the height of 1 chapiter was 5 cubits, with network and pomegranates upon the chapiters round about, all of brass. The 2nd pillar also and the pomegranates were like unto these. And there were 96 pomegranates on a side, and all the pomegranates upon the network were 100 round about. The people exiled to Babylon, and the captain of the guard took Seraiah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. He took also out of the city an eunuch, which had the charge of the men of war, and 7 men of them that were near the king's person, which was found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, who mustered the people of the land, and 80 men of the people of the land, that were found in the midst of the city. Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard took them, and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them, and put them to death in Riblah in the land of Hamath. Thus Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. This is the people whom Nebuchadrezzar carried away captive, in the 7th year 3,000 Jews and 23. In the 18th year of Nebuchadrezzar he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. You can also find Nebuzaradan plundering the temple in 2 Kings 25 verse 15, Jeremiah 52 verses 17 to 19, and rounding up Judean officials to appear before Nebuchadnezzar 2 Kings chapter 25 verses 18 through 21, and Jeremiah chapter 52, 24 through 27. All of this is validated by the discovery of Prism EK 7834. The Bible tells us that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego became officials in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. Also, it mentioned the names of Nergal-Sharezer and Nebuzaradan. The Nebuchadnezzar column confirms that these people really did exist in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, and in fact, were his officials. It is inconceivable that some people could believe that this history was made up. The Old Testament narrative explains their exile in Babylon. The identification of biblical figures with the same titles and correct time frame have been found on Babylonian tablets. This is not only strong evidence for the integrity of the Bible, but it is also proof of the accuracy and eyewitness of the biblical record.